Hi, everybody, and welcome to this podcast from the Light Review. And we are talking to Aicha Donaghy from the LIA, and we're talking to Nigel Harvey from Recolight, because there's a conference coming up at the end of April, on the 2nd of May in London. We're going to be talking net zero. Now, I read the newspapers the same as everybody else, so I know that most of us go, net zero, what's that about then? Because it's an immense topic. So I've asked Nigel and Aicha to explain, why do such a foolish thing? Let's put a conference on like this. What are we going to learn? And basically, how is it all going to work? So I'm going to do the sort of the gendery thingy, and not speak to Aicha, and I'd say to Nigel, I think this is the first time that you've come together with the LIA on a topic like this. So what's the background to that?
It is, and it's really great that the LIA and Recolight are working together because we share so much in common in terms of our values and what's important to us, what's important to our members. We've both been running events in the past. We've both run sort of various webinars, etc. And this looked like a great opportunity to work together because, frankly, getting net zero right is probably the most important policy that any of us will implement in our business lives. Because actually, if we don't get net zero right globally, we're going to face climate disaster. And so getting this right for the lighting industry for the UK is one small part of doing the right thing. And so working together on this just seems like the most obvious and logical thing that we should be doing together.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I assume that you weren't dragged kicking and screaming to the table for this conversation. So I assume there was enthusiasm from your side, even though the LIA has never been known as a particularly radical body. You might say, there are people out there who are running businesses, and we know what it takes to run a business. So how's your membership taking all this?
Yeah, I think we have very much up until recently focused on emitted carbon because of the nature of our members' needs. So on product really, but our members are getting more and more demands on measuring and reporting on their carbon in use. And therefore, it wasn't really a question of should we do something about it. As the trade association of the lighting industry, it was absolutely essential that we provided some guidance on this. So yeah, it was a bit of a no-brainer. And I think as Nigel said, with the alignment of our objectives, we do work on the whole concept of we're better together. There is a very wide, diverse industry with lots of associations and organizations. I think we were trying to quantify, we work with 80 organizations in the UK in the lighting industry. We work with, in partnership with. So where there is these alignments in values and objectives, we know that we can create a better thing, a better event in this case, by working together.
Excellent. And I don't like to say I told you so, but to anybody who's watching this, I told you so. I told you this over 10 years ago. If you did not do something about this, they will come for you. And they're coming. And we now need the answers. So, a net zero conference, Nigel, when people, you have done so well with the circular economy conferences, that now we're, as you say, we are ratcheting up several gears if we're going to be talking about net zero. But for the audience who think that they're doing incredibly well by going forward with their circular economy design and manufacturing processes, what are they going to pick up from the conference that they're not already getting?
I would hope We'll start by being honest, actually, because achieving net zero is not easy. I mean, we as Recolight have set our own net zero targets, and it's tough, particularly when you're stuck with using diesel-powered vehicles that are moving up and down the motorways, collecting and delivering waste. It's not easy. So I'd like us to start off with honesty and reality, and I think if we can talk through what works and what doesn't, the challenges that we all face, actually, that will help us all individually as organizations to start doing more of the right thing. So, there's a lot of individual nuts and bolts sort of solutions that I think companies attending the conference will get out of it. But actually, understanding what works and what doesn't, and the challenges we all face is part and parcel of the whole thing.
Yeah. And I would add, or agree, I guess, that it's that practical, actionable guidance from multiple angles. So the fact that we're calling in other members that are going through similar challenges, that have maybe had successes on certain topics, but also bringing in the suppliers, so that they can actually speak from a perspective of other industries where the successes are that perhaps we could learn from. And also, I think there is a lot to be said about the networking opportunities that this sort of event brings, and being able to discuss some of the presentations with peers afterwards. And we've made sure that we've left plenty of time for Q&A. We've got panel discussions where we bring the wider industry in. And I think those are just invaluable opportunities that you don't get that often, especially anymore. And actually specifically focusing on net zero, this still dark art topic, and actually, being able to walk away with that guidance on how to reduce your carbon emissions in your operations, which we haven't had an event on before, I don't believe, is going to be a premier event, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, we've Sherborne, which is where I am. We've just won a sustainability award. Who knew? Well, I'll tell you, nobody knew. But somebody thought it was a good idea and decided to go around asking questions of individual companies to say, well, what are you doing? Are you doing anything? What's going? And they found when they put everything together, the judges said, well, really, there was no competition. But everyone who has been working hasn't told anybody else. And the LIA is in a wonderful round table position to share, for people to share knowledge of what they've done and where they're going, and different people, different companies, different viewpoints, all coming together with a common aim. I think that's a really rather wonderful thing. And Nigel, I sometimes think that the annual conferences are great, except they're only annual conferences. And wouldn't it be great to have a situation where we talk all the time? We have conversations all the time. And somebody can stand up and say, my name's John and I believe in net zero and this is what I'm doing. And the trouble is we're all busy doing work.
We are. I mean, talking and conversation is good, but actually getting it done is even better. And so I think having the communication and the feedback is very helpful. But I think what we really need is for people to be able to go back to the business and say, yes, I can make a start on this. I know what I need to do tomorrow, next week, next year to make this happen. Because what we have to avoid is net zero by 2040 type targets without real tangible things that we're actually doing in the next weeks, months and years, and actually converting it from that long-term aspiration to next day goals is one of the things that I hope we'll be able to give people when they come to net zero lighting.
We've got such a diverse industry, don't we? We've got members of all shapes and sizes. And I know that through covering an overview of all the different topics, or as many topics as we can fit in one day, to be fair, I'm not going to say that we're covering everything. That's for many years to come, no doubt. But to be able to pick, do you know what, actually, packaging. that's something that through this, what this supplier said, that's an easy change for me. It's not costly, it's quick, it's a no-brainer. That's the sort of little nuggets. Maybe for somebody else, it's transport. Maybe there is changes that members can make in their materials. There'll be different fits for different members. And what we've tried to do with the program here is provide a nugget for absolutely everyone. And I guess the feedback will tell us if we've achieved that, but we're pretty confident.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of my heroes in this business is not in the lighting business, but in construction. So it was Ray Anderson of Interface, and we're going back a couple of decades now. But somebody said to him, "Okay, so what's your environmental policy?" And he was a bit embarrassed because they didn't have one. So he read about it and realised that we've been doing everything wrong, and that we're all pirates, and we all deserve to be locked up. And he stood on the stage and he's pointed at his colleagues and said, "We all deserve to be in prison for what we're doing." And he went to his board and said, "Right, we're going to change everything, but it's going to take time." And he came up with this idea of climbing Mount Sustainability, which does not have a top, but you just have to keep going. And it is such an image because, we think that there is no quick fix here. We just keep moving.
And certainly what we need to do is to avoid greenwash. And actually, there's always this danger that we'll come up with pat, simple sentences or descriptors that actually mask what's really going on. And greenwash has to be a thing of the past. We actually have to be doing the right thing and talking about, the right things that we're doing and describing it in the right way.
So do we have a policy on carbon credits?
Personally, I wouldn't touch them with a barge pole. I think for me, trying offsetting is not the right approach. We actually there is not enough offsetting projects on the planet that will help us all. We actually simply have to avoid emitting the carbon. Full stop.
Excellent. You can take that back to your members, Aicha, because I'm sure there's more than one conversation gone out around the LIA about, "Oh yeah, we found this company, and all we need to do is send them a check every month, and we're doing really well. Thank you very much."
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
John, I just wanted to quickly come back to, because I think it is saying these things and then saying them again and then underlining them and putting an exclamation mark after. And you touched on the topic of keeping the conversation going. And I think we are doing that actually. So we have for our members sustainability illuminated webinars that are every other week, where we pick up sort of tiny topics within the net zero and sustainability realm, and we sort of just get people thinking and asking the questions in their businesses. And I think after events like this and before events like this, and to decide the right program for these events and get the feedback that guarantees a successful one, is having those bite-sized conversations and not making it seem overwhelming for the manufacturers, and again be able to pick away at those things. We've obviously got our technical committee, sustainability technical committee, where I don't get very involved. I leave that to the technical experts, but where we look at all the standards that are coming, our membership to Lighting Europe, for example, with the tsunami, as it's been coined, of legislation that's going to come our way one way or another. That is not a question. We just don't know when exactly, but the sooner we start preparing for that, the easier the journey is going to be when we know our deadline. So I think, it would be wrong for me to not acknowledge all of these other channels of communication that are going on. I know Recolight are doing, similar webinars, etc., that cover different topics. So yeah, we do have different channels of communication that we will absolutely keep going and add to, no doubt.
Well, this is excellent. So just to wrap this one up, then, can you just give us a quick overview of when I'm sitting there and I've had my cup of tea. I go, right, I'm looking forward to this day. I wonder what I'm going to be listening to. So, Nigel, Aisha, what am I going to be looking at and who am I going to be listening to?
Well, for me, one of the most important presentations is going to be from Bob Bohannon from the LIA, who's going to talk us through the different systems that are out there available from different suppliers to help companies move towards net zero. And there's a wide range of different systems out there. Science-based targets is one of those. And to understand the pros and cons of each of those, and to get a feel for what is right for any one organization, for me, I think will be a really great takeaway.
It's one of the toughest things we have to do as an industry association, because obviously the wide variety of our members are using a wide variety of metrics and reporting, and so I think it's a challenge that we were happy but very cautious about accepting. But I think if you just sort of stick to the facts, I do really look forward to that. And I know the work on this has already started. I think just sort of as a wider overview, we're going to cover materials, we're going to cover metrics and measurement, we're going to cover energy, so different types of renewable energy that some members are using, packaging, transport. So really, as wide a variety of topics as we could possibly fit into one day. And then also some talks about what's important to the upper supply chain as well. What are they asking from our members? Why is it important to them? How is it being used, etc. So a jam-packed program.
Fantastic. I can't wait. Now, Nigel, I'm going to put you on the spot because I haven't got the piece of paper with the details in front of me. Just remind everybody when and where.
May the 2nd, London. It is the place to be. The details, you just need to Google net zero lighting and you'll come up with the web page and you can book places. So love to see everybody there.
Great. So you hadn't got the details in front of you either?
Well, yes. London's close enough, John.
London will do, and it's probably within walking distance of somewhere else. So
it certainly will be. Yes.
So there we are. Okay, Aisha and Nigel, thank you very much for your time. That's been a lovely, lovely chat. I look forward to seeing you both on the 2nd. I look forward to a fantastic day, and look forward to writing a lovely review of the whole thing. So
thank you for having us, John.
A pleasure.
Thank you very much. Good to speak.
Bye.